I think we're live. It is 6 o'clock. Welcome to Neighbors in the Know. I'm Michael Cintron with the Friends of Bachman Lake, and we have a nice crew and panel here today. So that you know, Neighbors in the Know is a community forum. It's hosted by Friends of Bachman Lake and the Bachman Northwest Highway Community Association. And we know that voices united stand a better chance of achieving common goals of safe, clean, and attractive places to live. And we believe that unifying the efforts will help overcome any challenges we face as individual groups. So, to promote this coalition, we're hosting a live panel session with representatives from various communities to introduce ourselves, discuss the core mission of each group or interest, and share what we have in common as we work toward a better Northwest Dallas. We have a very active community of concerned citizens. Our area votes too. So we've invited council members, commissioners, and other officials to listen in or watch our Neighbors in the Know sessions, and we hope they're joining us tonight. Tonight, our panelists include Tim Dickey, longtime Northwest Dallas resident, District 6 representative, and neighborhood advocate, or activist, as he likes to say, and current park board member. Barbara Stone, vice president of the Walnut Hill Homeowners Association. We have Colin Ice and Clarissa Lindenmeyer with the Revitalize Walnut Hill and Marsh initiative, who will speak about the area surrounding, you guessed it, Walnut Hill and Marsh, and also what's happening with various schools affected by the 2019 October tornado. Ruth Ortiz Cobos is vice chair of Bachman Northwest Community Association, and she's always a good source for what's happening in our community. And she's a key bridge between our English and Spanish speaking residents, and we're very, very grateful to have her here. And we also have, of course, Susanna Brown, president of Friends of Bachman Lake and a resident of Midway Hollow. She's here to make connections as always, and she's going to tell us about what's happening with pedestrian and cycling trails, and especially among some of our most dangerous crossings. So thank you all for being with us, and let's have some fun talking. First of all, before we begin, there are some housekeeping items, some key dates that are coming up. Among them is the census, and I'm going to be sharing some screens with you with some important information. And if you just bear with me here, I have about 2,000 of them open here. So first of all, on our Facebook page, we have posted a down to the wire alert that is volunteers are needed for the census. And at Bachman Lake on Tuesday, that's tomorrow, from 11 to 1, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and from 6 to 8 p.m. There is an event to help people volunteer to help with the census. The deadline is coming up September 30th, and it's really important that people get counted. So if you haven't already, check out our Facebook social media feed and find the down to the wire announcement, and that was sent out on Friday. It's very important with the census coming up that everyone be counted. So let's see what other items we have coming up. I will share, of course, this information. So some key dates. And we have the last day to, actually, I'm in my way here. Last day to submit application for student election worker program is September 28th. And that is at www.dallascountyvotes.org/student-election-worker. On September 30th is the last day, like I said before, to get counted in the 2020 census. That's at www.2020census.gov. And October 5th, very important, is the last day to register to vote for the general election. You can go to www.votetexas.gov.
Michael, one other point regarding the student poll workers, the minimum age is 16. So if you have a 16-year-old that wants to learn a little bit more on how government works, the explanation is there on the link that you shared. Thanks.
No, that's absolutely important, and thank you for that. I'm going to go around and talk to each of you a little bit, but first I'd like to kind of tag each of you and ask for a little bit of an introduction. I'll go in the order that I mentioned you. Tim Dickey, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and have a little fun and just let us know why you're here and why do you think it's important to be part of this panel today.
Thank you, Michael. You said I like to style myself a community activist, but actually it's more accurately a community whacktivist. Little term we coined a while back because it seems like everyone that's in community work a little bit wacky. We're all kind of wacky. If you've ever been in a neighborhood association for any amount of time, you'll know what I'm talking about. I say it proudly. But I've been active I grew up in Northwest Dallas. Never have lived other than when I've lived at college and living overseas for a while. I've lived in Northwest Dallas my entire life. And I was active in the mid 80s in the battle to get rid of the topless clubs along Northwest Highway. And that kind of led me into other involvement with the city. I was appointed to the city's Human Services Commission, and I served on a farmers market TIF board. And I'm currently on the park board representative for District 6. But I've been active in Northwest Dallas. We also were able to get a couple of state laws changed that had to do with some of the problems we had out here that gave the police some tools they didn't have before. One in particular, a House Bill 480 about street walking prostitution got passed. It would have made it a first state jail felony for the third conviction for prostitution. That was about 10 years ago. Since then, there's been a change in thinking in how the police handle prostitution and see it more as a victim type crime than a perpetrator crime. So there's a bit of a change on how the police handle that, which I think is a good thing. But we got that done. And there's just so much good stuff happening since Susanna and Michael and friends and Ruth came on and Joe Carrion and got this new initiative. I've never seen energy and motion and good things happening in the 30 years I've been active out here like I do now. It's night and day. It's unprecedented what all's going on. Some of that'll come up tonight, but I'm more optimistic than I've been ever about Northwest Dallas right now.
So I'm going to give you the toughest question of the night. What are you most proud of about where you live?
Most proud. Actually, I'm most proud about the way that we are pushing back, and we're tired of being ignored out here, and we've got some great points, some of which I'll get into. And for the first time, we're loaded for bear and ready to go, and I'm very proud about that. So it's the people that are and we are going to make it's already started happening, but I'm really proud of it because for years we were kind of in the wilderness, and they kind of like, okay, we'll give you that, or now we're back, and that's a big deal. So I'm proud of that. Proud of you guys.
We're all proud, and we can't do it without each and every one around here, and hopefully get more on board. So, Barbara Stone, tell us about where you live and what you're all about.
Well, I live in the Walnut Hill neighborhood, which is a square mile, and it's north of Walnut Hill, east of Marsh, west of Midway, and south of Royal Lane. And I have been on the board of directors for I don't know how long, a very, very long time. And so, as everybody knows, our little square mile got deeply hit with the tornado, and we've been doing whatever we can to build back. And of course, the schools in our neighborhood were just decimated, and we're just looking, the board of directors and neighbors in our little square mile are looking at ways to improve where we go from here. And one of the things I'm deeply involved in is the shopping center, Walnut Hill and Marsh. And as me being on the board, that's been one of my assignments, and I've been working very closely with Rachel Gearing on this, and I know she couldn't be here this evening and asked me to get in, but she's mostly who you see when you hear about that shopping center. But we're trying to do everything we can with the city of Dallas, with the developer, or with the owner to make a difference on that corner. So yeah, and I've been here. I'm not originally from Dallas. I've been here since 1981, and most of the time I have been in this area. I've been in my house now for 20 years. So long term, and I'll tell you, one of the proudest things I am of our neighborhood is the beauty, and mostly it's the wonderful neighbors that we have, and their desire to make our whole Northwest Dallas area just a better place to be and be recognized by the city. We've
Great.
got a great area.
That is awesome to hear, and we're all about community, so that's wonderful. How about Clarissa? What brings you here, and what are we going to talk with you about, and what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? Probably I'm most proud of the family that we've raised and the beautiful trees in our neighborhood, some of which, including ours, that were greatly destroyed by the tornado. But it's such a beautiful part of the city. I don't think we would have lived here if my husband hadn't been so interested in trees. And then we have fallen in love with the community. I agree with Tim that the momentum around what is happening with commercial real estate and the communities and the schools is, I am so sorry.
Everybody looks to see if it's them.
It's me. The community has just really come together, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'm here to talk a lot tonight about what's going on with Walnut Hill Elementary and just the schools in general as a mother.
Excellent. Thank you. Colin, you kind of involved with that whole issue with the schools as well. Tell us about you.
Yeah, with the exception of speaking as a mother, Clarissa and I are going to kind of tag team off one of each other in regard to our updates on the school. I live directly across the street from Thomas Jefferson, so on Killian Drive, and it was a really rude awakening almost a year ago. It's coming up on the year anniversary, and we've lived here for about 9 or 10 years now. In regard to that, I think I'm very proud of watching how after the devastation, everybody immediately came together. There wasn't a moment that there wasn't a heartbeat miss that people weren't trying to help each other, which was really amazing because it was a lot. And I know, we were lucky and we were, not so lucky at our home. But, what I'd like to do is be involved with, especially the activities at the school, both TJ as well as the upcoming pre-K through 8, to make sure that the neighborhood and the school have a nice balance with one another.
That is excellent. Important stuff. Lots of emotions surrounding that topic, so we'll get to it in a short while. And Ruth, welcome again. Thank you for your assistance. Ruth, by the way, will be monitoring our Facebook feed, so if you have any questions or comments, she'll pick them up, scoop them, and put them in our little chat window for us to hopefully address if we can.
Yes. Okay, so I am Ruth Ortiz. So I live in Brownwood Park, which is north of Bachman Lake. It has Web Shop on one side, Marsh Lane on the other, Walnut Hill to the north. I've lived here for about 4 years. Before this, I was involved with Arlington Park community. And there I helped, I was part of the committee to try to reopen the school, which is now Arlington Park Learning Center after it closed. So that was my start with community activism in Dallas. I'm super passionate about education, green spaces. I'm an educator, so I am involved in the community because I want the best for my child, and I want him to have the best opportunities, best resources available, and green spaces nearby. So that is why I am involved. As Michael mentioned, I will be monitoring the chat and taking the questions back and forth. And other than that, here I am.
Excellent. Superheroes, educators. That should be a synonym. Susanna's our president, made a lot of this happen. So tell us a little bit about you for those who don't know you yet.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much. So I've lived in the Bluffview, Midway Hollow area for about 25 years now, 26 years. And once again, we just fell in love with the entire area, with the maturity of the trees. I worked at American Airlines, and for 20 plus years, I would drive by Bachman Lake to and from work. And I promised myself that when I retired, I would get involved to help the park because it seemed rather neglected. And that was a year ago. Tim brought us together along with Joe and Michael and Diana Slatton and now Ruth and Diana Lira are great partners with Friends of Bachman Lake. So it's really become a little family, and we're really excited to hear more of what is happening in the broader community as we were all touched and affected and had friends that were affected by the tornado. Not just you, Tim and Michael, but friends up in the Walnut Hill neighborhoods, as well as the Midway Hollow neighborhood. So I think it's in all of our best interests, and I love the way that you kicked it off, because it's really important for us to join voices and to join together as a group. And the more that we can do that, I think the better off we will be in pushing forward some of the initiatives that we need to see happen in Northwest Dallas.
Excellent. Thank you. So going back to the October 2019 tornado, we were all hit one way or the other, some of us with damage, other ones with damaged confidence in the security we felt in our homes and in our neighborhoods. But yes, as Colin said, there was a lot of community, a lot of people joining together from the city to neighbors, everybody pulling together. And we're still going through it, many of us more than others. But that was an event that I like to say put Northwest Highway on the map. You know how tornadoes tend to wipe communities off the map. And I'm going to turn it to Tim, because we're going to take a closer look at what to do with some underutilized land along Walnut Hill Lane, and especially around the dark green light station, because actually there's a longer stretch going eastward from the Walnut Hill station to Monroe, where a fresh look at zoning and development could revitalize the region. And Tim Dickey will give us a little brief history of what's been there before, what's been tried, and how a grant to the Urban Land Institute has kind of renewed interest and focus in the area and has created some buzz about what's possible in this tornado-ravaged area. So Tim, tell us about what you know, and what's a little bit of the history of that area. And I might share some visuals with you, so hopefully pointing out where exactly we're speaking.
And Michael, do you have the map of the ULI target study area?
I can only point that out with the Google Maps. I don't have the map per
Okay,
se.
I've
But
got it, and I'll
oh,
grab it here in a second. But
sure.
and please, I don't let me know if I need to stop. But I'm going to start with 30 years ago, 25 years ago, a bunch of community members found out that they were talking about there being some sort of mass transit line in Northwest Dallas, and no, people don't tend to pay attention to these North Central Texas Council of Governments notices that they're having meetings. I hadn't been to any, and there was a guy named Vic Muse, who's very active up north, and then he went to one. And he came back to a community meeting and he said, hey, we need to gear up, because I just been to a meeting where they said there's going to be a mass transit line, and the developers and the powerful people that own Las Colinas have gone to Washington, and Michael Morris, the head of the North Central Texas Council of Governments Transportation thing, has told the community that it's a done deal, that this line is going to go out the Burlington Northern Rail line to the west from basically where the Bachman station is now, and go to Las Colinas. Done deal. So we all got up, got our knickers in a twist, and got ourselves to the meetings and pushed back. And several of us got appointed to what they call the community work group. Long story short, we were able to move it so that we defeated the Washington insiders, and they ended up putting that line along the Union Pacific line where it runs now, which is the major employment corridor. The Las Colinas thing never made any sense except for the developers. Didn't go to any employment corridors other than Las Colinas. So that was kind of a real introduction to me about how things work, and how if you don't pay attention, you're presented with something that's a done deal and it's too late. So we got really active. And one of the big things that happened was the promise of transit-oriented development. And as you all familiar with the area, it's been warehouses, and so it's 60 to 70-year-old land uses. And as we saw over the years, once the line was built, we saw all of this development happening in other areas around transit stations, over to the east, Mockingbird Station and that red line, and even further north on the green line in Carrollton and Farmers Branch. The city's economic development departments made things happen. Not happening at Walnut Hill and Denton. So that has always been an issue. We've been pushing, and then came the tornado. Well, when the tornado came, it was obvious to anybody with a brain that this is an incredible redevelopment opportunity, but it needs to happen with the city, the state, the county, and everyone on board. And Susanna and Michael have been basically kicking butt along those lines, and Joe and Ruth, and got the attention. And Susanna and them can tell you about some of the really big things that have happened. But one of the things was the Urban Land Institute, about a month ago, decided to do a comprehensive study of how to redevelop this area.
I think it's really interesting to point out, is that the map? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really clear.
The borders.
But it's basically a half-mile radius around the Denton station.
The Walnut Hill station.
Walnut Hill and Denton DART station.
Yeah, and what's interesting on the map that Michael was showing, if you zoom out, is the border, the border of trees, which are the residential area versus the industrial area. And what's important to point out with this, and why the tornado was even more devastating, is our area of the city is in what they call a heat zone, a heat cone that comes from downtown and radiates northwest following that industrial corridor. And there's a lot of studies that have been done on the negative health impacts for children and seniors, especially, on the effects of heat. And I think we're going to see that even more and more. So some of these changes that Tim is going to talk to is also the fact that a lot of these industrial areas, there needs to be a requirement on the part of the city for trees, for green, to offset the incredible heat generated by all of the cement. So Tim, back to you. Sorry, I jumped in there.
I'll just sum up real quickly. What they did was they called together about 30 Urban Land Institute, sent some specialists in from all around the country to work with this group. And there were about 30 people that were involved in these interviews about what do you want to see happen in this area. And just some of the people that were in this survey, State Representative Rafael Anchia, Councilmember Omar Narvaez, Chief of Staff of County Commissioner Elba Garcia Brooks Love, Pierre Chaco, the Chief of the Planning Officer and the Director of the Office of Planning and Design for the city, Terry Lowry, the head of the water utilities, Kevin Spath, Assistant Director of Economic Development, Patrick Kennedy, DART board member and chairman of their Transit-Oriented Development Committee, a plan commissioner, 2 park board members. A really great group gave their input. And I will just sum up by saying that when they collated all of the results of everything, their study and the input they got from the community, their main finding was that the current industrial and warehouse zoning in the area is not conducive to recommended uses by the Urban Land Institute and the stakeholders' stated preferences, and that changing the zoning is necessary. And the planned development district might be the answer, but a new vision is needed for the area. And that's significant. And that's the latest thing on that. So there are great possibilities. There are lots of tracts of vacant land developers are looking at. And we're trying to get the city to change the way, especially the planning department, which recommended against a new workforce housing development of 82 affordable housing apartments north of Walnut Hill on the east side of 35. The Plan Commission voted almost unanimously for it, but the staff recommended denial based on 2005 Trinity land use plan that was done before the light rail line even came in. So we're pushing to get the staff to come up to the 21st century and realize this neighborhood is not what it was 15 years ago. And that's a mission, because we need to change. And there's actually a seminar coming up where they're going to take another look at the land use plan for the city that we can participate in and try to lobby to get the city staff to change the way they look at their neighborhood, because the way they approach it now is outdated and needs to change. That's all I'll say for now.
So Tim, on the map, what I'm showing here is the area you were just speaking of, that the developer is kind of taking a risk. It's in the middle of a sea of industry, but there's been enough community support to have affordable and what we call workforce housing, because what we said in the meeting actually was we're not NIMBY people. We actually welcome new neighbors, because if you look at all of this span, there's very little in terms of green. There's very little in terms of residents. And yes, it's zoned for industry, but I like to hear about reverse encroachment, where the citizens start encroaching on industry and start rebuilding neighborhoods. So I think that's one of the reasons that, from our standpoint, we were supportive of something like that.
Yeah, and I think that the other reason, speaking a little to the safety security side, which is what Joe was going to talk a little bit about, was the fact that if we can create affordable housing where we have a certain percent of the housing for first responders, police and firefighters, by having them more integrated into the community, and knowing the community, I think you end up with a win-win. So that's just another reason I think that we were hoping that could happen. So the
Right.
video's playing again, Michael. I don't know if this is a different video.
No, this is just in closing this little topic. This is just kind of what we don't want to see come back, like this quote unquote massage parlor right next to the dart training facility, which is collapsed and thankfully raised now. But things come up before you know it, just like weeds. So I think trying to rezone, trying to rethink and reimagine the area is really important, because you don't find a stretch like this very much in the city that's right near a rail line. And, we're very adamant about what's going to go there, and the vision that people have, both leaders and developers and people who have a say. So we want to be part of the people who have a say as well. So, Barbara, are you still with us? Your area, too, was greatly affected by the 2019 tornado, and you alluded to the corner of the businesses on on Walnut Hill and Marsh Lane. Tell us a little bit about your experience with getting something happening there.
Yes, so we, as the neighborhood, Walnut Hill neighborhood and board of directors, we were hoping the shopping centers on that intersection were, going to improve. And what we found is the owner of most of that really isn't terribly concerned in bringing higher end retail, restaurants, things like that. So we have been doing our best to have a conversation with the owner and just letting him know, hey, the surrounding neighborhoods would really patronize anything that you brought in that were, something that was more attractive to the neighbors. Right? I think there was a pawn shop and things like that just didn't seem very attractive, and a lot of neighbors said, hey, we never go there because it just didn't feel safe, and it just wasn't things that we would go and use. So we've been trying to have conversation with the owner to say, hey, please, can you improve? In addition, we've been talking to Jennifer Gates' office to help us get her foot in the door with and right now we're just not making great inroads with him, and he says at one point, yeah, I'll work with you and see what we can do, and then we hear from somebody else in his staff that they really don't care and they're going to do what they want to do. We also wanted to see some trees in the parking lot improved, things like that. And so we're now trying to focus our efforts with the city to see if there's anything that they can do, any incentive they can give to him to help bring some nice retail and restaurants into that shopping center. In addition to that, the government building over there has been purchased by another developer who is highly active in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and he does major development. And as I was saying earlier, with he's done the Statler Hilton downtown. He's done things out in Legacy up in Plano. He's doing a big development out on Luna Road. He does lots and lots of big development and housing development. So he's, you know, this government building is probably one small thing that he is involved in, but he's either wanting to put townhomes or an office building. And so we as a neighborhood are talking to that major developer. But one thing that we'd like to point out to him, and maybe he could have some influence, is, hey, if you build a townhome there, wouldn't you love it if the shopping center had a great place for the residents to go and you know, patronize, versus, you know, just having something that has had crime and just isn't very attractive. So we're waiting to talk to him some more. We heard that he was infected with COVID, so we had to reschedule our meeting with him, but that's kind of where we are right now, and everything has been torn down except the auto zone on that corner. And I know he has the owner has a sign up, and he's looking to get new tenants in there, and we just don't know who those tenants are. So anyway, that's kind of a ongoing project, and I wish I could say that, yeah, hey, he's going to do everything and do it great, but we have not gotten that specifically from him yet.
And one of the things that everybody's seen as an eyesore, and that's before the tornado, is that corner gas station, that abandoned gas station, that
Yeah.
nobody really knows what's going on there.
Well, we did hear, he did say that he was going to put a coffee shop there, which is like, hooray. We don't have complete confirmation on that, and I know taking out a gas station is a major undertaking. You have a whole lot of environmental issues you have to deal with, but he has promised he is putting a coffee shop there. So let's hope that happens. And he does own the where the Hispanic shopping, the grocery shopping and the DDs, and he has, that is sublet by Albertsons, who are the ones who have that shopping center or have that grocery store and DDs. But that's all being built back already. So
Okay,
that's kind of that will be there.
That's a fantastic update, and at least we see movement, because this is the thing: is when things lay fallow and nothing's happening, our fear is that somebody jumps in and puts another pawn shop, or, as we saw earlier, a massage parlor.
And again, we just don't know who those tenants will be at this point.
Right.
We will continue working on with the city and hopefully with him to convince him that there's a lot of people would patronize that corner if he put the things that will attract neighbors.
I agree. So we're going to move to the area schools. Now, they were given a double whammy with the complete destruction of some buildings in the October tornado, and now with the effects of COVID-19. There's been a great debate over rebuilding as they were before, or mixing grades, or changing the scholastic DNA, if you will. And this is a real sensitive topic. So I'm going to go to Clarissa and Colin to talk a little bit about what's been happening with the area schools post-tornado and now post-COVID.
Colin, go for it.
I was going to let you start, actually.
So I spoke with Mr. Potter, who is the principal of Walnut Hill Elementary, which will become Walnut Hill. I don't actually know what they'll call it, but it's likely going to become an academy. It technically offers pre-K, I think 3 and 4, up through the 8th grade is the new plan. We are particularly passionate about that. we actually feed into DeGoyer, which is another amazing school in our neighborhood, and we transferred into Walnut Hill because of tuition-based pre-K and a lot of the scores and the ranking as the #1 school in DISD. And it has lived up to that. Obviously, the tornado happened last year, and within 48 hours, we were back all together at a new building. Not ideal, but it really couldn't have been handled better. And then, of course, now we're all waiting to hear about what's happening with the school. The plan was originally that we would be back in the school August of 2021. So basically a year from now, which seemed like a stretch. But the district was very committed to putting resources towards it. Obviously, most of you probably read about what's happened with the construction company being the original bid that they went with Core Construction is no longer, they're not moving forward for a host of reasons, but the architects are still in place, and they're saying that it could be delayed as much as into January of 2021. But that's still fairly nebulous. And I'll let Colin weigh in more on the architecture and some of the design and flow issues, which he'll have a lot more to offer there. What I'm concerned about mostly is curriculum, culture, diversity, and really, I think it's such a value add to our neighborhood. Most parents will tell you that middle school is the issue, especially with DISD. Well, as my mom, she's an educator, she would tell you middle school is just the issue everywhere, right? Middle school kids are tricky. And so most people at this time in 3rd and 4th grade make decisions about leaving their neighborhoods. They go into private school, they go to the magnet schools, and DISD has done some incredible things. So Walnut Hill, I don't know that it'll be called a magnet, but their goal, they're working on the application now to get it into a transformational pattern to become a humanities focused academy. So versus it being a dual language focus or an innovation track, it will become and Mr. Potter could tell you a lot more about what that means, but really it's a track about children understanding their place in the world through the eyes of education. Which we're all for, and they're going to work on obviously keeping diversity with the socioeconomic numbers, as well as making sure that it's a school that focuses on the local neighborhoods, but obviously open to others. Dallas ISD is a district of choice, so you technically can apply to get into most of their schools. The last couple things I'll add that I found completely interesting was just they're putting together a really compelling steering committee with some pretty heavy hitters on it. So a bilingual language professor from SMU, the former superintendent of the Highland Park School District. They have partners like Univision and other brands that are coming to the table to contribute to the vision and planning of the school, as well as a representative from the Dallas Institute of Humanity and Culture. So just some really interesting things happening. And I think I'm from the commercial real estate situation at the corner. I hope that people understand that there are just in all aspects of this neighborhood and community, there's just some amazing things happening. Like I said, we transferred into this school, and I know several families that have. Ironically, most of the people that live around it don't go to that school, but that's another topic.
So the not magnet, but the humanities program that you're talking about, is that for the combined Cary Walnut Hill Elementary that you're talking?
Yes. So in essence, what they determined was that the parents really didn't want a massive change. They were there for what Walnut Hill already was. So much diversity, so much culture, so much focus on the arts. I mean, it's almost like a Montessori school in many ways. I mean, their curriculum and their standards for excellence is amazing. And so what the community and parents really wanted was just more of that. We didn't really want a big shift into becoming like a tech focused campus. Although we know innovation is very important. Dual language is a huge part of that school. They now offer Mandarin. And but really more that it's about people and how we treat each other, and really putting the end user in mind, and really helping our children not just go get educated, but understand how to put that education to work and make decisions about high school and college if that's their path. Last thing I forgot to mention, which I think is really, really good, is that starting at the 6th grade, that they will be offering pre-AP classes. So these kids will now enter high school with potentially 4 to 5 high school credits. So it's just some really phenomenal academic movement.
Fantastic. So, Colin, this might be more of a question for you. My kids went to Walnut Hill way back when, and it's really an architectural jewel. Is there any sense as to what's going to happen with that building itself?
Yeah, it's a great segue, and Clarissa, great summary, and thank you very much for all of that, because you've got so much more of a handle on the programming and the curriculum than I do. In regard to the architectural stance, I've been trying to just watch out for making sure that there's that balance of, neighborhood versus green space versus utilitarian. On the front of the Walnut Hill campus, as most as I've been able to learn as sitting in through the meetings with a couple of the DISD planning boards, as well as with our trustee Flores, as well as the architects and the project managers, the fate of the elementary school is that the front facade will be saved and reused. The historic 100-year plus, institution, like incredible front that we're all used to seeing when you drive up and down Marsh, Midway. That's going to stay. And in regard to what happens to the backside, in their words, it would be reliant on the passage of a bond, whether or not that became a technical learning facility. So basically the back half of the school, which I'm assuming was probably a 50s, 60s kind of thing, maybe 40s, would be raised, and then a career institute type thing built onto the back to keep the facade of the front of the school. So I guess it's a very emotional conversation for a lot of people. I'm glad to see that there's reuse and there's at least thought to keep the front and not just tear down the whole thing.
So one thing that is lacking in both our libraries as well as our schools are tutoring spaces. And there's no, small rooms where people can tutor, or conference calls to tutor don't exist. It would be very interesting for DISD to consider, and if both you and Clarissa are in talks with DISD, that Walnut Hill building become more of a different type of community center that brings library type functions and features, as well as school features that can support students after hours. Unless that's part of the architectural design that they're considering for the high school and the elementary middle school spaces.
I don't have the complete answer, obviously, for that specific use case, but I do know that they are considering, that they will be including in TJ replacement of the adult learning center that was demolished, that used to be in trailers, that was right across from the church. So in regard to, more library space, et cetera, I'm not sure, but I do know they said that Walnut Hill campus wouldn't even be touched until there was a bond. So I don't think any of us need to plan on anything happening over there anytime soon. Let me show you a couple of photos and just a couple things that I've got in regard to just a few of the meetings that I had been to in the past. Now, for some of you, this may be brand new. Some of you may have seen this in the Walnut Hill Neighborhood Association newsletter, but these are renderings and traffic studies on what they anticipate doing with the site. So you've got the entire site here bordered on the north by Killian Drive and my house right there. Hedgeway Drive with the church being here, Walnut Hill, and then Gooding. So as everyone's aware, the former Cary and yet to be named pre-K through 8 proposed building will go here. I'll show you a little more up-to-date version here. But the track stays, a proposed field would go here. The existing TJ facility is going to be renovated, and a lot of it has been remediated and torn off already. But then, as Clarissa mentioned, the contract with Core was canceled. So, there's been basically no activity in the last probably 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. They did continue with a bit of the demolition of the former cafeteria and some of their building that was kind of attached onto the back here as well, some of the field houses. But in regard to traffic study, just to quickly run you through this, This is the scenario for pre-K through 8. What they would anticipate doing is traffic coming in on the road that shares with the school, with the church. For pre-K through 8, there will be a new road created that will bring traffic out of the neighborhood and onto the site. As much as possible has been focused on trying to bring traffic onto the I think it's 43 acres or something like that. Run them through here. You'd have a dual lane drop off in the front. Traffic would be turned down to the south and exit out the existing light, which I think it's Linnell Drive is the name of the street. That would be replaced with a smart metered light that would then allow for easy flow out, maximized during those peak traffic times. And then in regard to the TJ study, you'd have traffic. It's a little bit different than this now, but traffic also coming in because they're going to be drop-offs at different times. Traffic coming in off of Hedgeway, coming through, students drop off, parents drop off, and then everyone exits out again through that same exit here, and then only bus traffic comes through the back. For anyone that hasn't seen the renderings, and just kind of put it out there and remind you, this is a rendering. It doesn't mean that that's actually going to be what's Alexa, turn on the lights. I've been sitting here so long, my lights turned off. So Thomas Jefferson front, this is what you'd see on Walnut Hill. Thomas Jefferson on the north side, so this is what you would look at across this track and towards the road, or sorry, towards the facility, kind of on a nice slope with a bunch of expanded. Shut up. All right. So, and then the pre-K through 8 is going to have, it'll have the same language. You're going to have the same architectural style to try to pull the two facilities together. Now, this is just a more current version as of a meeting from in July. This was before Core had left, but you'll see the same traffic patterns coming through. You'll see the same roads. The buildings and things shifted to the east just a little bit, in addition to adding another field here. But most of this stuff is right where it is now in relation to the existing kind of track. Now, I'll just mention, because a few of you that may be on the screen, or sorry, a few of you may be in the area, DISD has requested and has put in, they have purchased 18 inches of right-of-way on this section of the road. And essentially that is because after many, many emails back and forth and me trying to understand architectural diagrams that seem to contradict one another, they have built the fence on right-of-way and on the easement property of the city. So they have ended up coming back and purchasing that land so that they can replace the fence with an iron fence, which is going to be a nice addition. So hopefully that continues across the entire stretch of the facility. Let me see if I had anything else to show you. Not really so much. I've got a few interior renderings, but again, these are extremely generic. This was inside of TJ, inside of, they've got some kind of Google-esque type of, collaboration spaces, etc. So let's see what else I had to tell you. So the traffic study is concluded. The last conversation that I had with DISD and the board, with the construction managers, is just that, due to core being released, they actually do intend to have a new construction company selected and approved by the board, hopefully by the end of this month. That would end up pushing the project still, though, into probably a 2023 timeline for opening. So long way to go, but we're going to all do our best to stay vigilant, watch what they're doing, and participate. Make sure that we're being a fair neighbor, but also that we're really we're watching.
Colin, did you say 2023?
2023 school year.
That's very different than what the principal told me today. I've always thought that when I've heard earlier, it seems so soon. But the one thing he did that you're, I think, confirming is he said that they're not reopening a completely new bid. They're going back to some of the other contractors that had already bid for the original and selecting the next best, so to speak.
Maybe they're going to be able to open TJ a little bit sooner because they're not having to go ground up. Maybe it's faster to go ground up on the pre-K through 8. I don't know, but they did say that, just loss of that contract would take this to it was actually the 2023 school year. They may be finishing earlier in the year. So
I have a question regarding, there's a big bond that is going to be in the November election ballot for DISD, if I recall correctly. Is any of this work that you're talking about, Colin, tied to that bond? Is there a danger if that bond does not pass?
I don't know the answer. If I did, I'd be happy to share it with you, and I'm happy to ask around a little bit. But yeah, I don't know the answer.
That would be an interesting thing to clarify for the community, especially if we're wanting to push for votes. And to get people educated. So if you want to look into that, I know from a Friends of Bachman Lake perspective, we're happy to try to push that out through social media or whatever channels in support of that work, since it obviously affects the area.
I haven't heard anything about that being associated with the bond, but that doesn't mean that's not the case.
Same.
Good. It's a good idea though to look into it.
This is all good to know, and thank you guys, and very hopeful imagery, very hopeful happenings, and like you said, Colin, keep on it and see how things
trust but verify.
Yeah. So Susanna, I hate to leave you kind of at the tail end of this. We have about 8 minutes or so, but you're the person connecting us all together. You're the dot connector, and part of it is trying to fix this trail desert that we have around here, and also address issues of safety for pedestrians and cyclists. Is there anything you'd like to add about what's been happening?
I'm not going to take a lot of time. I want to make sure that if there are questions that Ruth has seen, that we get those answered from a community perspective. Sure. From a broader Northwest Dallas perspective, we have all, especially in these times of COVID, fallen in love with the North Haven Trail. And I know how frustrating it is for people. Oh, let me dead end at Monroe and turn around, and then let me dead end over at 75 and turn around, because it doesn't go anywhere else. So North Dallas and Northwest Dallas especially is a park and trail desert. And I think it behooves us all to continue to push the city to create connections between the trails. We have lobbied, and we're going to need probably help, I would am assuming, from the community. I don't know exactly all how the city works in all of these approvals, but from a county perspective and a city perspective, trying to secure funding for Denton Drive, whereby we can connect North Haven Trail down to Bachman Lake Trail, and even further south, connecting that all the way to the Trinity Strand Trail, which then would create a really interesting loop back around if they ultimately complete the bridge over 75 at the North Haven Trail. So you could truly do this loop through North Dallas, which would be amazing. I think another thing that's really important for folks to start thinking about, especially as we talk about Marsh and revitalizing Marsh and Walnut Hill, and this could potentially apply as well to Midway, is why do we need 6 lanes of traffic that go 50 to 60 miles an hour? Inwood seems to operate just fine with 4 lanes of traffic between Walnut Hill and Northwest Highway. And I think that what people are seeking as we're trying to raise families or have an opportunity maybe to walk places or ride our bikes places safely is the creation of more bike lanes, and especially slowing down traffic so that we can get to the be that restaurants or grocery stores or gyms that we want to in the future. So I think that there's an opportunity to revisit some of the way that we get from place to place in Northwest Dallas, and try to slow down the traffic so that it's safer. So we're going to be working, and we hope to have a presentation come October with National Parks and the North Texas Council of Governments COG funded a $1 million mobility pedestrian study for the Bachman area, which is going to extend. Right now, it extends all the way to Royal Lane, but we may need to move that in a little bit and have it maybe go to Walnut Hill, with the idea to really look at what makes sense for the area in terms of addressing, because believe it or not, around Bachman Lake, we're like one of the top 3 worst areas in terms of pedestrian cycling incidents. So we need to get that addressed. We're hoping that the funds that COG is going to be providing is going to work towards that. We've asked that it be harmonized with the study that is being funded for Harry Hines all the way to Northwest Highway, as well as the study that they're funding on Northwest Highway itself, from Inwood to Hillcrest. It makes sense, and Mr. Morris would agree, that this be a system of recommendations for the entire North Dallas area, including addressing the horrible entry into Dallas that is Northwest Highway at Denton and Spur 482. It's really an eyesore. So we think that it makes sense, and I'm going to just close with this, and Mr. Morris would agree, for the airport north entrance plan to fold under this broader North Texas Council of Government study, so that we make sure that whatever the work that is being done from a trails perspective is in sync, so that we're not doing work and then having to redo work because we have a unilateral maybe decision on the part of the airport in terms of which way they want to put the entrance. So we want to work more in collaboration with the communities, so everybody has a say on how this is going to work. And I'm going to leave it at that because we're out of time, Michael.
Just about. That's excellent stuff. And for those of you who have been following Friends of Bachman Lake, we have a boatload of information on our website. For everybody who's joined us today, I hope it's not few and far between. I hope to see you guys frequently, and however we can coordinate our communication efforts, we will communicate that to the public and let them know how we can all find out what's happening with the government building, what's happening with the schools, and how it's going to look. And maybe the airport can take some pointers of moving cars inside the campus. I don't know, but we'll see how that'll work. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you're interested in the Spanish version of this, or at least some semblance of it, we're going to be on hopefully by 7, not too far from now. I am totally grateful for everybody to join us, and thank you. And this video will be available upon completion on Facebook and within 24 hours on our website and YouTube channel. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.